Welcome to the Mom and podcast. We're your hosts, Susanne Kearns
and Missy Stevens. We want to help you through everything that happens in the ellipses, from your professional life to your emotional health.
You're a mom and so much more. Let's figure out what comes next together.
Welcome to the Mom and podcast. I'm Missy Stevens, mom and writer, foster care advocate, and this week, and really every week, crazy plant lady.
Yeah, and thank you for some of the tips that you've been giving me on some of mine. Anybody can just text pictures of plants to Missy and she'll diagnose. Yes. It's really helpful. And I'm Susanne Kearns, a mom and writer, LGBTQ and sex ed advocate, and this week an ACL Festival recuperator. And we are trying to decide if that's a word, recuperator. I am recuperating from being at the ACL Festival in 90 plus degree heat from about 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. every day with my kids. And it was awesome, but holy cow, tired. But
yeah,
yes.
I've never done it. Can you believe I'm a native Austinite and I've never done it?
You've never been to ACL?
I'm not a big festival crowds of people person. Wow. And so I've never done it, but I feel like I need to lose my ACL virgin card at some point.
That's shocking.
I know. I don't know. It's very weird. Of all the things I've done in this town, that's not one of them.
That's okay. It took me 10 years to paddleboard, so
I have done that.
It's never too late. It's never too late. Well, y'all, this week, the reason we're a little bit off with our introductions and start is because we don't have any guests to be fancy for this week. Because as of this week, drum roll. Are you doing the drum roll? Am I doing a drum roll? Our podcast is full term. This is our 40th episode. And in the time that it takes to grow a person, if things all go well.
Right.
Mine like to come a little bit early.
Yeah, I grew one in less time for sure. And then one in about 40 weeks.
Yes. Mine like to come a couple weeks early, but the size of like a 47-week-old kid. I don't know. It must be all the ice cream I eat. But for 40 episodes, we've been making the Mom and podcast and learning from experts and having so much fun. And I hope that you have all been learning and having as much fun as we have.
For real. I mean, we're just going to take some time today to go down memory lane over the last 40 weeks and talk a little bit about what we think might be ahead. And as we were preparing, I thought, I wish that we could cram into an hour, a tribute to every guest that we've had.
Oh, I know.
We probably can't, but our guests, I mean, wow. Our guests, and it's mainly props to Susanne for just
having no shame
and reaching out to people when we're like, should we reach out? I don't know. Suzanne's like, I'm just going to do it. We've had some really incredible, inspirational people. So I thank you for being the pushed, let's just ask. If we think we want somebody, let's ask. And it's worked out really well for us.
It has. Although there are a couple in the past couple of weeks that I've been asking who have not been responding. So hopefully, I'm thinking, Missy, what this might be something as we talk about what might be coming forward. I'm still shocked beyond shocked that we get people like the likes of Julie Lithcott-Hames and to come be guests on this show. And we're so appreciative of their time. And we know that time is valuable. And as we discuss more about our own boundaries, I actually truly respect people who are honoring their boundaries and being like, you know what? There are a zillion podcasts that I'd love to be a guest on, but just cannot. So I truly do appreciate that as much as we'd love to talk to them on one-on-one. But the amazing thing is they got books. We can read the book. You and I can still have a discussion about what we learn in the book without necessarily having that guest there to be like, yep, that's what I wrote. So
it's true. I really do want to respect their boundaries because we want our boundaries respected. That's one of the things we're going to talk about later. And so it's okay. It's okay if people say not now or not ever.
They will. Eventually, they'll be like, can I please be on your podcast? But no, in the meantime, for people who, for one reason or another, if it doesn't fit their schedule or if they have something going on in their lives where they are just not available, we might work around that because there's there are some books that we really want to talk about. And
Yeah.
if we can't get the author, we can't get the author, but we're still going to talk about it. And maybe we can even
Yeah.
kind of turn it into a little book club where, we go over a couple of weeks, and you guys will have time to grab the book and kind of
Ooh, that's a cool
participate
idea.
in our group, which is a good opportunity for us to remind people that we have a private Facebook group, which is
Yeah.
Mom. If you are searching for it in the Facebook bar, you actually search for mom space, and then it's called ampersand, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Ampersand.
Yep.
And
We're both
then
doing our
I
fingers
know
with initial.
it is
We're
a
both drawing
it is a
ampersands in the air.
non-visual medium, the podcast, but look at my
Mm-hmm.
finger. And then it's community, not the podcast. The community is the Facebook group. So look for there. We are pretty darn quick to approve and let people in. And so we can talk about it there. And then we also have our Facebook page, our Instagram, and all those exciting places where you can find us. But yeah, the group is kind of where it's our safe space to kind of let our hair
Yeah.
down and ask some questions that might be a little more vulnerable that you don't want to bring out into the public page.
Yeah. And I feel like I think Facebook groups have gotten some bad raps in certain
Or
circles,
Facebook in general.
Facebook in general. So I feel like this group, and granted, it's ours. So of course I'm going to have nice things to say about it, but there's not a lot of people just randomly posting. People ask questions, answer questions. I don't think we've ever had anybody be ugly.
No,
Like,
nope.
people are nice and respectful. And
Yes.
so if you're like, oh, I don't want to join another Facebook group that pops up in my alerts 200
Yes.
times a day, that's not it.
No. And you know what? And lurking is welcome. I gotta
Yeah.
say, it's kind of funny because from time to time it'll be kind of quiet. We'll post something, maybe you don't hear a lot. And then out of the blue, I'll get a
Mm,
direct message a week later and just being like, I just got to let you know that, I didn't want to say this in the group, but I just wanted to let you know that I really appreciated that, or I
yeah.
tried that. And so that is okay.
Mm,
Some people aren't
yeah.
ready. And some people, after a year or so pop in and you think that, oh, are
Yep.
you new? But like, nope, they've been there
They've been
and they're,
around.
and they're just feeling comfortable and popping out. And so we welcome
Yeah.
that. You don't feel like you need to come in and like do a big intro, although we welcome that as well if you'd like to. So, because
Yeah.
there are
There's
a
a
lot
pin
of,
at the top of the page. You can go
yep,
introduce yourself and read about everybody else if you want.
yes. So come join us. It's super, super
Yeah.
fun. And we will be posting, I'm going to jump to one of the things we're going to be talking about, some little inspirational reminders from our
Mhm.
past episodes, things to just kind of go bing and be like, oh, yeah, that's right. I love that part. Because after 40 shows, that's 40 hours. That's like a work week of just
Right.
nonstop listening to podcasts.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of nice to have a little reminder, especially what are
Yeah.
the things that you get, Missy? You get the little tummy flip?
Yes. Almost every episode, my stomach like does that. It is sort of a flip flop where I know I've heard something that really resonates with me or calls me out or something. It's
Yes.
something where I'm like, oh, I need to pay attention to that
Yes.
for whatever reason. I would say that happens at least once an episode. I mean, sometimes it happens within the first few minutes and continues to happen, which is those are the episodes where you're like, I need to take notes.
I
Careful, careful
know. I
notes.
know. It's so funny when we end up taking notes on our own podcast, but I'm
Mhm.
discovering that we need to, because one of the things that we're going to be doing in this episode is talking about the things that we've learned. It was supposed to be one thing we've learned, but we both cheated, I think, on that. But so we're going
Yeah,
to be talking
sorry.
about
I'm not good at ones. Not good.
we've learned so much, the things that we've learned over the course of the past 40 episodes and all the
Mm-hmm.
interviews that we've done. And then we're going to talk about one of the things that we have learned and not quite done. And so, with something that we want to keep moving on, maybe it means we bring on more guests around it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's just that we get off our asses and do it. I don't know.
Yeah, and
We'll
just
figure
encourage
that
each
out.
other to figure it out. Yeah.
And then the other thing is just patting ourselves on the back for some stuff that we've heard the experts say that we came into this actually maybe not knowing, but feeling in our gut, or that we were
Mhm.
already kind of doing, but also reminding others maybe who that isn't their thing that they've been doing. Just reminding them that those are
Yeah.
opportunities to learn more about yourself, learn about each other.
Well, and I
And
thought we'd, before we got really deep into all of that, just talk about quickly, if we can.
yes,
Quick is not
yeah.
a thing that people put with us, but quickly just kind of talk about the journey of the last 40 weeks like where we started, how we felt when we started, and what we
Yes.
feel like now. Because I mean, 40 weeks is a long time. You can grow a person. It's 10 months. It's a long, we've gone through almost all of 2021. When you
It
think about stuff that has happened in 2021, separate from our podcast, I mean, it's been a year.
it has
It's a
been
lot of
a
stuff.
year, and I'm very impressed that we have stuck with it because I think, isn't there a statistic like if you make it past your seventh episode,
Something crazy. Very
you're
few episodes.
already further
Hmm.
than, 80% of podcasts. So yay
Yeah.
us. We've got
Because
that
it's
far.
a lot of work. I
It is
don't
a lot
think
of work.
people realize like the amount of time that goes into it. But I mean, to get past those first 7 to 10 episodes is huge.
Yes, because there's a big learning curve.
Uh-huh.
And but I
We're
one
still
thing
learning.
I am very proud of us. This is something like in the Julie Lythcott Hames get out of neutral. I feel like we got out of neutral pretty dang fast with this podcast. From the
Yes.
idea creation, which was like the week before Christmas, to
Right.
picking a theme song,
Hmm.
deciding on who to host it, deciding on a format, coming up with a logo,
Yeah.
which we ended up doing by ourselves. Don't say
Which
that
was
you could
another,
tell. I think it's cute.
yeah.
Look at it behind me.
I
It's so
I think
cute.
it's so cute. And I think that was an important lesson learned. Like we did not trust ourselves to do it, but we had what we needed to get that done. And
Yes.
once we saw what we were getting from the quote unquote professional we hired, we were like, oh, this is not
We can do this.
we
We
can
can
do
do
this.
this
That was our
better.
first lesson in trusting ourselves, I think.
Yes. But I mean, all of those things take a lot of time. And even just recording that first episode, I think, oh my gosh, who have we? Nancy Davis Coe, I think it was. And I was shocked to find out how many times she recorded her first episode
Yeah.
of
Oh,
the
that's
midlife
right. Yeah.
mixtape when we had her on. We had her on for the Thank You Project,
Yeah. I don't
but
remember the numbers, but
she,
it was a
yeah,
lot of times that she redid
and
episode
we
number
just
one.
did it. We just did. Maybe it's obvious, but we just did it.
Have you ever re-listened to it? Like I haven't heard it since
I
we did it.
haven't. That would be kind of funny. We should
I
do we
know.
that's maybe that should be our thing that we do on TikTok is just the look on our faces as we re-listen to our first couple of podcasts. Be like, oh, ow, ooh.
Yeah. Me
But
too.
yes, so but I think material wise, guest wise, topic wise, I think we're still pretty much on track with where we
Hmm.
started. Was just exploring these ellipses, making the most of your ellipses, which are basically the dot dot dots after mom. And
Yeah.
so all the things outside of your role as mom that make you you and exploring that,
Yeah.
celebrating that and trying to expand on that, whether that has to do with a career or not, may or may we'll see where that ends up.
Oh yeah.
But yes, so I think that we've stayed pretty close to that
Right. It's the people we are in the dots beyond
in
that.
in the dots in our cute little. Oh, see for anybody who's watching, make your
Oh, I
ellipses
don't have my
count.
mug today.
You don't have your mug on our
I have no fluids of any kind in here. So at some point we have to pause because I might get thirsty.
Well, speaking of, since we're talking about videos and I'm showing you videos, this is a reminder, we have a YouTube channel.
Hmm.
We're doing all kinds of self promotions in here, but for some
Yeah.
of the
This
shows,
is the episode for it.
yeah, exactly. For some of our episodes, it actually comes in handy, especially this past, when was it released? On Friday,
Hmm.
last Friday, where we did our Tipsy Ellipses workout. It was the
Hmm.
menopause fitness in menopause workout.
It was so
Um,
much fun.
it was so much fun. And I got to tell you, I've been using so many of those exercises because they're so easy and I don't have to get on the ground for, and I think there was a couple that she gave us
Yeah,
options to
like a
get on the
bridge. You'd have
ground.
to get on the ground for a
Yeah,
bridge.
so there was that one, but being able to do push-ups on the wall, the squats into my chair, I've got my dresser where I can do the tricep bends or whatever. So yes, but I highly recommend because as much as we tried to describe them in the podcast,
I
it's
don't
the
I don't think we did a great job of
you
making
know
it
what?
an
The
audio
funny thing is,
experience.
you guys are such troopers because we can actually see on the data downloads like the percent listened to. And I thought for sure that episode people were going to be like
Out. I'm out.
50%, like this is enough. Y'all stuck through it. I'm so proud of you. I hope you actually did some of the exercises, or maybe you were just making fun of us
Yeah.
visually in your mind.
Yeah.
But if you want to have an even more fun time making fun of us, definitely go watch the YouTube channel. And there's links to that on the momandpodcast.com website.
Yeah.
But yeah, any other
Yeah.
reflections from you
No, I
besides
just
podcasting is harder than it looks?
podcasting is harder than it looks, but I think the only other thing that comes to mind when we've been talking about this episode is not that I'm not nervous anymore. Like our I still get a little, I don't know, anxious, I guess, before we record with a guest, but it's less than it was.
Hmm.
It is, I think back to those first couple episodes and I like had the flop sweats. My palms were sweating. My underarms were sweating. I couldn't really hear my own thoughts. And I have learned over the course of 40 weeks to be present in our interviews. And I just
Yes.
never thought that would happen at the beginning, and partly due to just working together and growing into this thing. Like I'm
Yes.
present and I hear what they have to say. I mean, first I would have to go back and listen to the episodes, be like, I don't know what we
Yes.
talked about.
Well, I discovered that probably after the first, and it probably went through maybe the first couple of episodes where when I was going back and editing it, like it was almost like I was listening to it for the first time. And
Yeah.
I
Different
so
people didn't remember having those conversations. I mean, it was
yes.
crazy.
Fortunately, I think Jen Mann was one of the first ones, and she actually we're going to be on her podcast
Yeah.
here in a couple of weeks. So I'm excited
Yeah.
about that. I want to give a
Ooh.
little shout out for it because she
She's
just
got some great guests coming up.
she
I mean,
does.
including us, but also she's got
Yeah,
some
she's got some
really
amazing, two in particular. But no, it is called No Pants Required with Jen Mann. Jen is Jen, and then Mann is Mann.
mhm.
So she's on like episode 4, I think, and I don't know where we're
Yeah.
gonna come in there,
Yeah, I'm not sure.
but yeah, I think hers was one of them that I was like, oh my God, this is Jen. That was a friend who, I mean, there shouldn't be so much pressure, but I was
Right. She's
listening
so
to,
kind and so easygoing.
oh
And
my
I was
God.
panic stricken. I
Yeah.
mean,
And I was listening as I was going through and editing it, listening to the audio again over and over. And I was like, oh my God. Like, I wish I would have said something. I wanted to have said something. I wanted to go back in
mhm.
time, being like, oh my gosh, that was such a good point. I wish I would have told her, or this was so interesting. I wish
Yes.
I would have elaborated on it. But no.
I
So,
mean, deer in the headlights, just getting through it at first. So maybe we owe an apology to our first few guests and a
no.
thank you for letting like being our guinea pigs and letting us practice on them basically.
Yes, but I also think it's just a reminder for any of us in our lives to be present and to
Mhm.
listen and to not be thinking about the next thing that we're going to be
Yeah,
saying.
for sure. And I think I've learned that you don't have to being an anxious person and you also have some experience with anxiety.
Yes.
I have spent my entire life planning out what's going to happen next so that I'm ready for it, which
Mm-hmm.
is ridiculous because you can't always plan these things, but trying to be in control of the next thing. And so I would always be thinking about what I should say next. And this has broken me of that because I can't hear what our guest is saying if I'm thinking about what I'm going to say next. And
Yes.
it's okay to pause after they talk and think about what they said. Like it's changed the way I listen, and it's pretty cool.
Yes. Me too. Oh, look at us.
Look at us
Okay.
growing.
Look at it. Well, and then speaking of things that we're growing with, so the category of things that we've learned and
Hmm.
actually applied to our lives. So these,
Right.
so let's see. I think, and I'm so glad we started with this. We started with the idea of getting to know who we are. And one of the
Yeah.
very first episodes we had, it was episode 5, was Steph Barron Hall. Do I have the book back here? I got to stop turning around and looking for books because it messes up my volume. And last time
And sometimes they all fall over.
I
Yeah.
knocked over my old bookcase. But the book is called, oh, here it is. See, I do have it here. The Enneagram in Love.
Hmm.
And she's got an amazing Instagram account. But Steph Barron Hall came on to talk to us about the Enneagram and how our Enneagram numbers impact how Missy and I were going to work together, but
Hmm.
also how it just makes you interact with anybody in life.
Yeah.
And I still think that was one of the best things. We've done some really great stuff. Episode number 8 was Strengths Finder with Jenny Remington. That was
Yep.
a really good way of getting to know what your strengths and stuff are.
Mm-hmm.
But I really felt the Enneagram got to, because you have to understand the motivation behind your
I still love
behavior,
that. Yes.
not just your behavior. So I
Mm-hmm.
feel like the Strengths Finder is awesome, but I feel like a lot of my strengths, or a lot of what I would identify as my strengths, made it have almost been like self-fulfilled prophecies, because it was based on things that I put an emphasis on in life because I thought that's what I was, or I thought that's what I should be, or
Ooh, uh-huh.
whatever, versus really
Mm-hmm.
digging into the why
Yeah.
of things that you do or things that you put a focus on, and what really drives those decisions. So
Right.
I've just felt like the Enneagram, I was not expecting it. I thought it was gonna be like, oh, it's like reading your horoscope, or like, I
Right.
don't know.
Right. That's what I thought when I first heard of
I
it too.
thought it was gonna be a little more woo woo, but it really
Mm-hmm.
it's just enough right amount of woo. but
Yeah.
also
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
also, I mean, it really, I mean, we have discovered it took me a long time. What, it took me like 2 or 3 months to figure out what I was.
Yeah. I think
Um,
so.
but
Which,
we're
I
both
mean,
nines, right?
yep.
We're
Just
both nines,
crazy. We're both
which
nines, which for people who know about the Enneagram, that means you go to 6 in stress. And I think we've both spent a lot of time in the land of 6 in our lives.
yes.
And I think, and I know we don't talk about our kids a lot on this show, but being a mother sends you to that place. And if you do have some anxiety, which we
Mhm.
both do, then you're trying to anticipate every terrible thing so you can be ready for it. And your brain goes to, they rode their bike down the street and I haven't seen them in 15 minutes. They probably kidnapped or dead. Like you go to these horrible places, and it's not healthy and it's not smart, but that's that's motherhood for you. So I think we have operated in a 60 land
Yes.
for a lot. But yeah, we're
But
both
for
nines.
people, yes, I mean, you get kind of a feel from that description what a 6 is like. But a 9 is basically your goal in life is just to have everything calm and peaceful, and
Yeah.
just like no waves, and our
We both hate
weakness,
conflict.
we hate conflict, and our weakness is, or our vice is, sloth, which is shocking. When we talk about yay us for making it 40 episodes, I mean,
Yeah.
and any given day, I think either one of us would just prefer to be taking a nap, like at any time.
Sometimes one of us does. Just saying.
But yeah, so that's kind of the 9. And I encourage y'all to, Stephanie does an amazing job. Each of her Instagram posts could practically be a book. She's so
Right?
thorough. If she introduces a concept with an Instagram post, it's not just like a, hey, nines, go take your nap. I mean, it is like,
Yeah.
okay, here's a subject. I'm going to break it down for each of the numbers for you. And I'm like, geez, girl, I told her that too. I was like,
Yeah.
each one of these posts could be a book. What are you, you're giving
Yeah.
it away for free.
Right.
So definitely encourage you. And we'll put in the show notes the
Yeah.
link to that Instagram
Yeah.
account. But I have found that that is something that has just stuck with me. And I'm so glad we started with that,
Mm-hmm.
because it really is what we've learned, coach after coach after coach that's come on, is before you can do anything else, you need to know what you're working with. You need to know who
Yeah.
you are
You are.
and what drives you.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of the things that a lot of our coaches have said, our pocket person, Stacy Kim, who I
Get her
I
out of
hope
my
she's
pocket.
okay with us referring to as our pocket person. She's just our
I hope
favorite.
so.
She's just really she's
She's
just
the
a
kind of
good
person you
energy.
wish you could carry around with you and be like, what do you think of this? Or I need help with
Yes.
this. And she'd be right
Yes.
there in your pocket to
I'm
help
I'm
you.
scared to tell me something nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
But she just had, she does the Lighthouse Method, and she does some seminars around that. And she just had a group this past week. And so
Mm-hmm.
she had us put together a bonus information sheet of kind of the top repeated lessons that we
Mm-hmm.
hear from all of our coaches, so that she could give that as a way, as a bonus for her
Yeah.
attendees. And so we are going to make that available to our listeners as well, for people who
Mm-hmm.
go and sign up for the newsletter, which you can get to the link for that at the momandpodcast.com website. But I am hearing and they all say it in a little bit of a different way,
Yeah.
and that's why it's we were just saying we've got so many great lessons. But even if you're talking
Mhm.
about, figuring out what your values are, probably 80% of the work is going to be pretty similar across all coaches. I would say, I mean, you've got the value sheet. Anybody can go out there and Google like
Yeah.
list of values and start going through some of those. But
Mhm.
the coaches, each that other 20%, each coach has just a little bit of a different take on it, or a
Yep.
different approach, or a different step that maybe you would take in doing that. And just depending on what speaks to you, it's worth listening. Maybe,
Mhm.
well, I don't even want it. Shannon Rafalowski's overview of the values was great. So, episode 22,
Yes.
check that out. But if for some reason, I don't know why it could be that that didn't, you're like, oh, I didn't quite get it. First of all, reach out to Shannon. I'm sure she'd love to explain it
Yes.
in more depth.
Yeah.
But if, find someone else who talks about values. We'll be bringing on other
Mhm.
people who talk about values. And don't give up, because eventually you'll find that person who speaks about it
Yeah.
in a way that really makes you go ding or makes your tummy
Right.
flop like Missy. So definitely encourage you to, if there's a particular topic, maybe you didn't get it the first time, let's listen, let's find someone else who might be able to describe it in a way that makes more sense for you.
Yeah.
And I have a couple other things, but I don't want to be just talking. So Missy, throw a couple of yours in, and then we'll
Okay.
we'll we'll ping pong
Well,
it back
I
and forth.
kind of want to build on what you said about figuring out your values. One of the things that so many of our coaches have said is that it's not one stop shopping. This doesn't happen once. Like, you don't sit down and figure out your values and go, well, that is who I am. And I think Ann Imig talked about this very recently on one of our last couple episodes. There is a statistic, and I can't remember who said it, but we can go back to her episode and find it. But it was something to the effect of most people 10 years from now are not who they were 10 years ago in some fundamental way. Like, there's part of you that doesn't change. Part of your makeup is just what it is. But we change. What we think we want changes, our circumstances change, our experiences mold us into somebody else. And so sometimes you have to revisit those values. And so when you're at a place, a pivot place, or we're a reevaluation when you're trying to figure out what's next. Are you going back to work after a pause, or are
Yeah.
you going to take a pause, or whatever it is?
Or
You
even
might
just
need to
switching
revisit.
jobs, whatever it could be.
Yeah. You might need to revisit those values, or your Enneagram number, they say, like, doesn't change, but you may need to go back and study that again so you understand your motivations again and how they apply to your current situation. So I love that, because I'm one of those people that I wanted it in a neat little box and a bow. I always have. I've
Yes.
wanted to be able to say I am this. And as we've discussed in many episodes, you and I have both wound up in spots in our lives because we have just been like, well, the test said I was going into marketing. The test said I'm a good writer.
Yeah.
I am, but I am a good writer and dot, dot, dot. And
Yes.
there's more to it than that. And it's okay to go reassess.
Yep. To explore and pivot.
Hmm.
And can
Hmm.
you tell I got a lot of the Julie Lythcott-Haynes episode, but I'm going to use another
Yes.
quote of hers of just getting out of neutral. So
Yes.
even if you don't know exactly what that thing is, and this kind of goes along with Stacey Kim's
Hmm.
Lighthouse Method too, is just take the first step in the general direction that feels right.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
trust your gut. And it's kind of interesting. And I think I've brought this up in past episodes, but since my daughter is a junior in high school now and is starting to explore colleges and,
Hmm.
going to all of these, meet the college and, talking to counselors and stuff, it is so interesting. It's so different. Talk about things that were different 10 years ago.
Ooh,
Or when did we go to college? More than 10 years
way more
ago.
than 10 years ago. It's a long time ago.
But I mean, it really was very much like, what's your major? What's your
Yeah.
major? What are you going to do? Um, they are so much like, I'm so shocked to hear this, but time after time, they're saying, go, it's hard. It's a very privileged thing to be able to actually go to all these campuses and
Right.
actually get a feel for them. But fortunately, a lot of them have online tours or whatever. And
Yep.
they said, go to the one where you think that you are just going to feel excited to be there. Like
Yeah.
the one that you just walk into and just be like, yep, this is my place.
Mhm.
figure out your major, sometime by your junior year. but
Yeah.
but really it's just this idea of feeling in your
Yes.
gut and, have a general starting point of what your interests are. But
Mhm.
they're like most kids change their majors by the end of their freshman year
Mhm.
anyway. So don't feel like you're locked in and really just make those decisions based on your surroundings and where you feel safe and where you feel good and where you feel like you can be yourself. And I just thought that was so fascinating. So now we're going to
Yeah.
just change all of our family vacations around fun places where we can go and
I mean,
look at
we are too.
colleges.
Nerded out all weekend making a spreadsheet, which my kids were like, "You've lost your ever loving mind." I'm
Oh
like, but this
no.
is what I like to do. And but trying to think about if we're going to visit some campuses, like how do we work that into some trips? And again,
Hmm.
staying of great privilege, but instead of saying like we thought we might hit the beach at some point in the next year, well, maybe not. Maybe we will go somewhere else that we can incorporate a campus or two. But I'm like, we don't know which ones we want to visit until we start thinking about it. But
Yeah.
none of this has anything to do with our show. But when you were talking,
But no, it is.
I was thinking about how it does tie in that you have to be in tune with what feels right.
Yes.
And we are doing a better job, I think, of teaching our children that. We did not have that kind of information about college, I don't really
Oh
think.
my gosh.
I
Yeah,
mean,
what a gift that would have been in high school. Well, first of all, college visits are just a whole new thing for me.
but I don't know. It was
Mm.
different. It was a different experience then.
Well, I just love that the next generation is they're actually being coached in school to do that, or at least in our
Yeah.
kids' schools. I don't know that that's something that's universal or around the country, but I'd be curious to hear from listeners if they're
Mhm.
seeing similar things from their kids. But yeah, it just
Yeah.
reinforces that
Excuse me.
all the coaches are saying it. Are you yawning?
I know, I'm so sorry. I got up so early this morning. I'm going to talk about this later in one of our boundaries when we talk about boundaries, but
Your
be,
boundaries.
I had to be at a swim meet because I'm the president of the booster club. And
Yes, we are going to talk about that
yeah,
boundary.
so I got up so early this morning and worked at the swim meet, and I am so tired. I'm sorry. I'm
I
so tired.
That's okay because you know what? We are Enneagram nines and you should be
Yeah.
taking a nap right now, really.
Yeah. I put my feet up for a few minutes when I got home, and I was like, "Oh, this is bad. Like I'm going down. I got to get up and keep moving."
Oh my gosh. Oh, well, now speaking of boundaries, so that is one of the learnings that I
Mhm.
actually used to tremendous success for
Yes.
everybody. Um, you know
Yeah.
what? It was at a little writing getaway a couple years ago that someone mentioned that I think that their reverend or something at church had said that when you say no to something, you're letting someone else say yes to it.
Yes.
So if you're giving someone oh wait, yes, did I say that right?
Mhm. Your
now
no
who now
opens the
who
door
fell
for
asleep?
somebody else's yes. Yeah.
Yes. So if you
Yeah.
say yes to something very unenthusiastically, there might have been someone who like that was their thing that they'd been waiting for. So,
Right.
as you know, I am on the board of an amazing group called Caring Hope, which does hope packs for kids who are entering foster care in Texas. And the founders of Caring Hope are going to be starting a shelter for
So
teenage
cool.
girls. I know, I'm so excited. It's going to be the plans for it are so amazing. But
So needed.
I'm on the subcommittee for this group that's doing the shelter, which is totally different than what we've been doing. I've been on the board, I think, for 5 years now. And it's primarily, events or trying to get corporations to go in and do
Mhm.
packing the Hope Packs or bringing the materials for the Hope Packs. So this is totally different, running a shelter. And so they brought it up to me, just being like, because I'd been there for 5 years. So I'm sure that they were like, oh, it's just proper to bring it to Susanne to see if she'd be interested in being the chair of this group,
Yeah.
which was very kind of them. But I just knew time commitment wise and just knowledge wise
It's a
that
lot.
I would not be the best person for it.
Mhm.
And so I didn't jump on it. I said, hey, can I think about it? So we
Just
learned that about
right.
boundaries. So it wasn't just
We learned
jumping
that
to an
from
answer.
Justine Sones. She was like,
Yes,
don't
thank you,
say yes or
Justine.
no right away. I think about her every day.
Yes. So I just waited a little bit to think about it and really think like, okay, is it just because if it was a matter of something that I could add a lot of value to, but it would be a stretch of my time, I probably would have been like, oh, let me see what I can do, or let me do it, co-chair it, or let me, do it as an
Right.
interim or whatever. But if it was just something where I just felt like I'd be doing a disservice to the position, as especially because it's such an important thing. Um,
Yeah.
so I ended up saying no. I said I'll be as involved as possible on the subcommittee, super enthusiastic participant there, but I don't feel like I'm in a position where I can lead it time wise or just ability wise. Literally, like a week later, we had someone join our board who has run shelters in the past. And I mean, and how awkward would it have been for our founders to have to be like, hey, Susanne, can you give up that position that we just offered you? I mean, and I would have gladly, because I would have known, like,
Right.
yes,
Right.
this is something you should be doing. But it was just the universe. Everything just kind of went click, click,
Mm-hmm.
click right into place where I felt good that I had like made this like
Mm-hmm.
really thoughtful decision for myself and for them. And then they got the person that they needed who can really just knock this out of the park, and who will be the person who can give us on the subcommittee, the other members that are helping out, who can be like, hey, do this. And we can do that. And it'll be like, not no wasted time, because it's going to be the thing that
Mm-hmm.
we're supposed to be doing, instead of if I was trying to give people and delegate things to do, 50% chance it would have been something that would have had to have been undone and then redone. So,
I
and
mean,
this
I
is,
have no doubt you could have done it, but
it would have taken
it's
like 200% of the effort to get
right.
50% of the results as someone who's actually already run shelters and knows
Right.
the things
And
to
that's just
do.
the stress involved with always wondering, are you making the right decision?
Oh,
Is this how I like having, you'd have to source so much information out of so many
yes.
places to make a decision. It would have been
And
a
there's
lot. I
legal
just,
implications, and there's
ooh,
safety implications,
it's big.
and
Yeah.
these are kids' lives who have already
Mhm.
had so much like
Mhm.
not work out, that I'm just like, we need this to be just perfect for you. We need this to be like the most amazing place for you to land. And
Yes.
so
Safe.
I'm
Safe is good.
so excited about it. And this will not be the last y'all hear about the shelter, because I'm sure there's going to be all kinds of opportunities. Hey, if anybody has furniture or that's the other thing we're going to be working on this week. We're trying to get what?
I might have
You
furniture.
might have furniture. Well, it's new furniture. So it's got to be like a hookup.
Right.
So for this is it's going to be a nice place. It's going to be a nice place. So, and not that there is not a place for, secondhand. I
Used.
think there
Right.
really is, but they're trying to make this a really special, like
Well,
how
and
you,
there's a real safety issue to having new things.
there is that too.
Like
There's that
that,
too.
it's makes a big difference if it's up to modern expectations of code and being
Yeah.
able to be bolted to the wall and all kinds of, I mean, there's a lot of things to consider when you're furnishing a place.
No. And I was going to say, we want this to be as nice as something that we would do for our own kids, but it's actually nicer because
So I
my
was gonna
kids,
say, yeah.
my kids both have mattresses that I got off Craigslist. And yeah, everything that my kids have in their bedroom is used. Yeah.
My kids have new mattresses. That's a whole different story.
No,
Like they
my
do have
kids
new,
don't.
very fancy mattresses, but that's not a podcast story. It's not that interesting, but they
But
have
no,
either
we wanted to be
IKEA or
why
secondhand furniture,
no.
like they have hodgepodge things put together.
Yeah, no, we wanted to
Yeah.
be nicer than the crap that my kids have, basically. So
And
yeah, we
safer
are.
probably. Like I have one who has, I mean, he has my brother's furniture from
Oh
when he
God.
was a kid.
Oh, so does my son. His
Yeah.
dressers in his room were my brother's
Yep.
growing up. I've painted them
Same.
red and I've swapped out the handles, and they're super cute. And you know
Yeah.
what? They don't make them like that anymore. But yeah,
No, this is great furniture. And it was really nice furniture back in the day. Like it
yeah,
wasn't cheap stuff then.
it's the
But
best.
yeah, it's not new. I mean, my brother's not young.
No,
So,
that's what I'm telling you. There is nothing in
yeah.
either. My daughter has a chair and a nightstand that literally we took off the road. There's a thing in Austin where
Yep.
every August there's a bulk trash pickup. We moved here during an August, and we're like, what is up with everybody's crap on the streets?
Yeah.
But I mean, if
Where
you
have we
ever
moved?
want some
Good
play
stuff goes
school
out on the
stuff. Oh
curb.
yeah, everything. That never buy a bed used the week after that though, because I'm sure people just pick up mattresses and are like for sale on Craigslist.
Oh, that
Um,
grosses me out.
but no, every August we would just be like, no one could go for a walk with me because I'd be like, "Ooh, this chair can roll home, and we can put some stuff on the chair." And we'd be pushing a chair for like a mile home from this walk. But I've done that more than once, and so yeah, my kids have stuff that literally we rolled home on walks somewhere through Circle C in Austin. Oh my God. But yeah, I don't even know. How did we get here? Oh yeah, we need furniture for the Caring Hope shelter, and I'm gonna
Yeah.
bug y'all about it and fundraisers and stuff. So yeah, that will be coming soon. But
Yeah.
let's see. So what else have you learned that you've actually done?
Um, I really think I talked through all of that. I think so, with the exception, I guess I have not done this, but I have like literal in the works plans to do it. But
Okay.
when we talked to KJ Dall'Antonia, who I feel
Hmm.
like we circle back to on our podcast all the time, such a wise woman.
Oh, she is.
Um, and I think she talked about something that has been an overarching theme of our podcast, which is everyone needs a coach. She
Yes.
really encouraged me to take the leap and get a book coach.
You
And
did.
so I haven't done it, but I have figured out, like, I know I have my paperwork that I need to fill out now. Like, there's a whole form you fill out. And because I am a crazy person, I always think, well, I have to have this ready before I get that ready. And just in the last couple of weeks, I have worked myself around to no, I just need to get the paperwork and start the process instead of dragging it out any further. So yeah, I'm getting a coach, and I am
Yes.
gonna take what I have and turn it into something usable, because right now it's so bad.
I'm so excited. This is new to me. Breaking news.
Right. It
Breaking
is breaking news, because
news.
it's really been just like I finally looked up on the website, like, how do I take the next step, instead of just like, oh, I know there are book coaches out there. Like, now I know how to get one and how to apply and what the process looks like. And it might take a little while to get it all finalized, but it's going to be in the
Very
works.
exciting. Yes. Oh,
Yeah.
that's huge. My God, the
Yeah.
whole episode should be about that.
We'll do a whole episode once I've actually signed the paperwork, maybe
Oh my
handed
gosh.
over the cash,
Yes.
but it's
Okay.
coming. So
Let's
we were
see.
going to talk about the thing we really love that we learned, but that we have not mastered. And I think we
Yes.
both wanted to talk about time blocking.
Oh, well, that in our defense, that was a more recent episode. We haven't had as much
Yes.
time to absorb it.
Well, Jen Mann talked about it way in the beginning, and we
Okay,
were
that's
both
true.
like, "Ooh, that's really cool," because that's how she's written a gazillion books, and she's now got a
Yes.
podcast, and she at times has done real estate. I mean, she's done all these things, and she's really
Yes.
active in her kids' schools. And so we were like, "How have you done it?" And she really does use time blocking. We were like, "Well,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to do that," and we did not. And then Kara Harvey came on very recently and talked about it again with some very actionable ways to do that. But yeah, I want to. I
Oh, and
just
she was
haven't.
so good. And that is one where you just need to go in and take notes because
Yes.
she talks fast.
I'm
And you
so
can
fast.
and you can lose it. You can lose it if you're not really paying attention.
Yeah.
And so that's another one where I think it would be good if we just did like little takeaway
Yeah.
blurbs for people just to be like, "Oh yeah, that's right. She did say that." Cuz yeah, that was so good. And I started with the best intentions and then we just had our weird ACL weekend and all kinds of
Right.
stuff. But I'm defending it in my brain that we've kind of taken this long to get to it because I was thinking about this. Am I the only one who will like rearrange expired stuff in the refrigerator? Like you're trying to like organize the refrigerator and you're just like, "Oh, well, let's make room around the moldy strawberries and this, this lemonade that we bought 4 months ago and never used, but it feels like it wasn't a waste of money if it's still in the refrigerator." Like, I don't even
I
know.
kept these juices. I bought some juices from Trader Joe's that I had in the past. They're really great. They're like have a lot of veggies and fruits in them. Like, they're good.
Yeah.
I bought them right before snowpocalypse.
Oh.
And I thought, it's going to be snowy for a few days. We're probably going to eat a ton of junk food because we thought, oh, we're going to have chili and s'mores and all of this. Well,
It'll be
little did we
so fun.
know.
Our little, yeah.
Yeah, little did we know it was coming. But this was before we knew how bad it was going to be. But I thought, well, I'll buy these juices. So at least we have something healthy. Maybe I can add them to smoothies, whatever. Well, I never opened them. And we kept them in the fridge for so long because I kept thinking, I bought them, I paid for them. We really need to consume these.
Yes.
And Mark would ask probably once a week, are you still planning to drink these juices? Yes, I am. I'm still planning. Finally, one day I was like, I think I'm not. I think I'm tired of shuffling them around the fridge.
Yes. But I think that is what time blocking would be if you didn't have your values in place. And if you didn't know like your priorities and you didn't do all these
Yeah.
exercises about, figuring out what you really what's important to you. So I
Mhm.
feel like time blocking could almost be a dangerous thing if you don't know what you're organizing yet, or if you're not organizing the right things and you're squeezing in
Right.
time for things that are not of high value to you. So
Right. Time to
I
stop shuffling the juices.
oh my God. Don't, yeah. I had a gallon of milk that when we bought it, it was nasty and expired. And so I was going to return it. And I put it out in the garage fridge and it was there for maybe 3 months. And my husband came home one day from the grocery store. He's like, I realized that they forgot to charge me for my milk today. So it's okay
So
now for you to throw the, because I was going to take it in and just never did. He's like, it's all even, Steven, with the universe. I was like, you know
there you
what?
go.
I think you're lying to me right now, but thank you because that is
He
what I need.
probably was like,
That
what
is
am I going to tell her
what
to get rid of this disgusting gallon of milk?
yes, that's why he pretends he likes to go shopping so he can be like, "Oh, that thing you needed to
Ooh.
return, you can throw it away now
Yeah.
because because I stole a gallon of milk." so so we're all
Whoops.
even Steven with the grocery store. They gave us nasty milk, but apparently forgot to charge Chris for one of them.
Oh my
But
gosh.
yes, so there that is a yeah, I think time blocking. So I think we need to get some more guests on, and we've heard this in the
Yeah.
group too, that time management is something that people really want to
Yeah.
hear more about too.
I
That's
tend to just let the day shove me around. And I'm getting better because we have learned about time blocking and it's in the back of my head.
yes,
And so I am getting better about it, but I have a long way to go to really. I mean, when you hear Kara Harvey talk about how she does it, I have a
oh my
long way to
God.
go to get to Kara level.
She's so good. She's so
Hmm.
good. But and I know
Hmm.
it can, I mean it makes sense. Everything she said makes sense and everything that she said sounds possible. It's just a
Yeah,
matter of doing it. It's just a matter
it
of
is.
doing it.
Yeah, it
Um
fully is.
yes. And then let's see, what was the other thing I wanted? Oh, we've already kind of talked about this a lot, but I come out of every discussion with all of our guests just like buzzing with excitement of
Yep,
just like, oh my God, I feel like they just changed my life. And I have this happen
fully.
sometimes when I listen to other people's podcasts too. I'll hear something and I'm like, this is so amazing. Like that just changed my life and I'm never going to forget that. And then like by dinner, I'm like, what did they say again? And I don't know if that's premenopause brain or if that is
Hmm.
just life. I mean, that's just what happens to people. But
Yeah.
I do want to find a better way, hopefully for listeners too, but if nothing else for myself, just, if we come out of each of those episodes and be like, here are 5 quotes that'll maybe help you reading those things. If you're like, oh, I remember that episode was so good, but I can't remember exactly. And I don't want to
Yeah.
listen to the whole thing again. It'll just be, and maybe we can even have like
Yeah.
time
Just kind of
marks for if
lighten up.
people want to listen to it again, be like, okay, yeah, at minute 46, she said, this about prioritizing your schedule and, working in the
Yeah.
mom time and the working time and having that discussion with your kids. Oh my God.
That's what
Oh,
I
wait.
really loved what she said about talking, like making sure your family knows, because that's one of the places I'm falling down. I know what I have to do every day and I have in my head how it's going to go. But if I don't have the rest of the people here on board, like it's
Yes.
useless.
I'm trying
And
to
I
remember
found
which.
myself snapping. Like I snapped big time the other day. One of my kids, all they said was mom. And I went, what? I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Like you didn't know that I was in this block. Like you didn't know.
Yes, I know. I need to get, and then the family business plan. I'm trying to figure out my printer.
Oh,
Look how bad a job my printer did. It seriously skipped every third episode. I will find and we'll put it
that's
in the
so
show
weird.
notes. Look in the show notes for the family business plan episode, and I
Yeah.
will link to what number that is because it's one of them that didn't get printed here. That was another really important one for breaking out the time and time management and things
Yes.
that we have learned but not quite done, but we
Yeah,
will.
that was Danielle Bettman, and that was such a smart idea.
Oh, love it. Love it. Love it. And I
Yeah.
talked, and my husband was even excited about it when I came out of the episode. I was like, guess what I just learned about? And I mean, he runs entire
Yeah.
teams of people
Right.
around the world. Like, we know about business plans. We know about,
Right. I
it's
have
just,
written business plans for other people. I have put plans in place for projects and jobs that I
yes,
was going to do, but
we
not for
know.
my life.
No,
Yeah.
we know that they make sense. And we know, oh my gosh, I know. It's just kind of like the fitness and menopause episode,
Yeah.
our tipsy ellipses, the idea of just doing squats whenever you're going to sit in your chair. I mean, I've been around chairs all my life. I know how
We're
squats are
up chairs.
performed. I mean,
Chairs are not new to us.
literally, when they teach you how to do a squat, they say pretend you're sitting in a
Sitting in a
chair. So,
chair.
how about not just pretending? Like when you're going to sit in a chair, do a couple
Do some
squats
squats.
first. I
Yeah.
mean, seriously.
That's the quote of the show. I've been around chairs all my life. I'm a chair expert.
I really am. I love it. I'm usually sitting in them, not exercising
Right.
around them, though.
Right.
But yeah, so I think we need to do that for ourselves. We need to do that for you. Put together either some quote cards or just lists in the show notes. I don't know what that's going to be. That
Mm-hmm.
it's just so they're going to be our little ding ding moments to
Yes.
remind us of those highlights.
Uh,
So yeah, where did you have any other things that you're still working on? I think it all comes down to
uh,
that time management stuff, doesn't it?
yeah. That, and then we already talked a little bit about boundaries.
Yes.
Whereas you kind of learned and put that into practice. We literally interviewed Justine Sones, and 2 days later, I agreed to something that I knew was going to be an enormous time commitment. So I have since learned a lot about that. But I mean, I think about Justine every time I'm writing an email for that volunteer position. And it's not something I don't like doing. I love it and I
Yeah.
care a lot about it. But this year probably was not the right year to say yes.
Hmm.
But now I've said yes and I'm going to make it work and it's fine. But I do think about her all the time. And I'm like, well, this won't happen to me again. Like
You've learned.
I've
You've
learned,
learned.
but I did not process it in the 2 days between when we interviewed her and I had to say yes. But I
But
think I,
again, none of these things are things that well, I'm sure there are things that we say no to that we don't want to do. But kind of like, we were saying, respecting the boundaries of guests that aren't available to be on
yeah.
every podcast and do every interview, like that, it's not that they don't want to. And I think that
Mm-mm.
that's what we need to realize, that people don't take it personally. We don't need to take it personally. It's just
No.
that we only have this finite amount of time and it's really valuable and we don't get it back. And so
Yeah.
we need to be choosy about what we do with it. But like you said, you're enjoying doing it. It's just that for a while
Right.
it's gonna be a little frantic, and now
Yeah.
we
It's
know, and
something I
that's
care deeply about and it's connected to my children and I care about it a lot. And
hmm
it's just not the right time, probably. And who talked to us about understanding your why? I'll have to go put it in the
oh,
show notes. Like it's right here. I can almost hear her
let
saying
me
it, but it's something I think about a lot with a couple of things like with Master Gardener that I'm doing right now. At moments, it feels like an enormous time suck, but I have to remember my why. And my
yes.
why is that I need this knowledge for me to accomplish some of my goals around foster care. It's going to help me do some things in the foster care community, and selfishly, it's going to help me some in my own house. But it's something tied to another great passion of mine that I have long-term vision about. So I have to remember my why.
Yes.
Maybe I'm not great at that yet, but then I have to remember my why for why I decided to be the president of the Booster Club. It's attached to my kids. It's not
hmm
about me, but that's my why, and that's what I have to remember when I'm like, are you kidding?
Oh my goodness, those darn kids.
I know.
Okay, but no, but we also are in respecting those boundaries and respecting that we sometimes we make decisions and we learn from them. You're lighthousing. You've made a
I'm
decision,
lighthousing.
and okay, we learned a
Mhm.
little bit about that, and so it may not be stepping away entirely. It's just you do this other position next time, or maybe you
Yeah.
decide that something else goes and you want
And
to
I
give
get
that your
way out
all.
of my comfort zone and ask for help. Like,
Yes.
I mean, there was something that we wanted to make happen, and I knew if it were left up to me, it was not going to happen. So I looked at the whole group and said, here's the information. Who can make this happen? And somebody said, I have time.
Oh,
Like, that was hard because I
yay.
really would rather be like, well, I brought it up, so I better make it okay. And
But your no is somebody else's yes. They might have
yep,
just been like, "Oh my gosh, my week freed up or whatever, and I really wish that I could give time now that, it's available." And
yeah,
so, yes, you allowed them to participate in a way they might not have been able to. So, yay.
right. And allowed something to get done without me feeling guilty about it and waking up in the middle of the night and thinking, oh no, I didn't finish it and having to, all the horror things. So
Oh my gosh. Okay. And then from 40 interviews, there are things that we've realized that we're actually we were not
yeah,
not that we're amazing happened, but things that we were actually doing pretty well, and that
yeah, things were already kind of in our wheelhouse.
yes, and that coaches have
Yeah.
reinforced that yes, pat ourselves on the back. So, what thing were you doing that coaches have reinforced that yay you?
I think I'm pretty darn good at the self-care piece. I haven't mastered not having some shame and guilt around it. So
Hmm.
that is something I'm still working on. But I am good at listening to my body and knowing like I need to rest or I need more water or I need to go exercise or whatever it is that makes me feel like a whole person so that I can go back out to my family. I
Yep.
don't always do it right, but I at least am aware of what I need usually. And I'm getting to the point where I can say to my family, like, I am someone who thrives on alone time, thrive on it. I also love people, but I reach a wall and now I can verbalize that. Like I've hit my wall.
Hmm.
I peopled and peopled and peopled. And so for the next 2 hours, I'm gonna not people, including you people. Like,
You are also people.
yeah. And whatever that looks like at that moment. I mean, sometimes that's leaving to go exercise, or sometimes it's hiding in my room and watching a dumb show or reading a book or sleeping or whatever
Yep.
it is. So yeah, not it's not something I've mastered, but it is something that I have more skill at than I realized after talking to like Michelle Garrett talked about it, Shannon Rafalowski, Suzanne Brown, Jenny Remington, all talked about like embracing the pause when you need to pause and keeping your mental health forefront. It's so much more important than whatever the next worldly success is. Like we
Hmm.
have to take care of ourselves first. So
I
I
love
feel
that.
much more comfortable about it.
I love that. I'm still working on that a little bit, but I'm inspired. I see you doing that, especially with the working out piece. You've been so good about that, and I'm trying to. And now that I have my handy exercises that I can do without going on the ground,
Yeah.
and I say that. I mean, it's not that my floors are kind of filthy, but I actually have issues with benign positional vertigo, which I'm so
Yes.
bummed. One of the things I was talking about that I was so excited a couple weeks ago, I was going to be going out to dinner with my friend Cindy, who had me up paddleboarding, and like seriously, 2 hours before I was going to go, my world just started going. And if I nail it
Mm,
with some Sudafed and lay down, I can usually get it. But sometimes it goes for days and days and days, and it's
yeah.
usually little wacky crystals or whatever in your ears.
Right.
Um, and I am prone to it, and it usually happens with floor exercises. It's why I had to stop
Interesting.
doing. What are the core things that you're supposed to do?
Plank.
No, it's the whole thing, not yoga, but Pilates.
Oh, Pilates.
There was a
Yeah.
fitness
Oh, yeah. It's
Pilates
a lot of,
thing that yes, and anytime it's kind of turning your head and facing down, that's the thing. It's like I could
ooh.
drive to go see Cindy, I just can't look down. My husband's like, I don't think so.
That's good. When you're driving, you need to be able to look all
Yeah, you need
around.
to be able to look more than one direction when you're driving. But
Hmm.
anyway, so yeah, so when I'm talking about I don't want to get on the ground, is not that I'm just supremely lazy. It's position wise, doing things that are standing are safer for my
Yeah.
inner ears and my vertigo issues.
Yeah.
And if anybody else has similar things, I really encourage you to go look at the Tipsy Ellipsy episode on video. It's
Yeah.
a
With
little
Dr.
hard to
Maria
listen to the
Luque.
workouts. Oh,
Yeah.
she was so good.
She's so great.
And then let's see here. Okay.
So
Oh,
what
so
about you?
So my thing is, I think, and we've heard it not necessarily through all the coaches, but the idea of people using their privilege to amplify the voices and needs of others. So we've
You're
heard
so
it
good at that.
echoed across racial or socioeconomic or gender, the
Mhm.
LGBTQ community, mental health. And I'm not saying I do all these things. I'm saying these are the topics we've covered across
You
episodes.
do a lot of that though. You're really good at this.
I have focused primarily on the LGBTQ community, and I hate even calling it privilege because I'm not saying I just had to correct this to a reporter the other day when I was at the Capitol and we were
Yeah.
talking about some of the anti-trans bills. And I didn't want to say it's a privilege to not have a kid who's trans because that's the most ridiculous thing in the world to
Right.
say,
Yeah, that's
but it's a privilege of an emotional distance
Mhm.
from parenting a kid
Yes.
who's already being marginalized and targeted. I'm a
Mhm.
step away from that. So I have this privilege of space, emotional space, where I
Right.
can be there to amplify the message, and literally just being a body at the Capitol to hold a sign that day. It was when
Yeah.
the House was coming in and out of session,
Yeah.
just literally being there to hold a sign. And so I do encourage people. It can be a little uncomfortable, especially when you
Yeah.
are trying to support a group that you are not a member of.
Mhm.
I mean, I've been doing this like really specifically for over 4 years now. I mean, my
Yeah.
whole life I like to think that I've been doing it in some part, but making a really concerted effort running Informed Parents of Austin, and I'm sure I still mess it up. And I don't want to be like the white savior, the straight savior of the LGBTQ community. That's never my goal. It's
Right.
just really how can you use my voice, or in the case of the Capitol, my body, just to be there because these parents, they are there, especially in Texas at the Capitol and these anti trans bills. They have to be there all day long. You never know when the session's going to start for you to
Yeah.
testify. They are there day in, day out, just trying to ask people not to be horrible humans to their
Horrible.
kids. I mean,
Right.
just like what? I mean, it's just
We shouldn't have to ask people to
you
treat our
should
children
not
like
have to
humans.
ask people to not be mean to kids. When else has there ever been a law specifically aimed at hurting kids? I don't get it. But anyway, it's exhausting. It's
It's
exhausting.
exhausting.
Even if you don't feel like you're in a space, whether, I've had problems with this and had to step back from time to time because of anxiety issues or whatever, because it does, even though I do have the privilege of emotional distance, it still takes a toll, and that's why
Absolutely.
I know it's so important for the people who it's really taking a toll on to
Mhm.
be able just it's a relief pitcher for a second. Let them go
Yeah.
take a day off or just go rest for a minute and just take that space for them.
That's
Or
such a beautiful way to look at it. I don't think I've quite put it in those words when I think about because at CASA volunteer, I testify every time that case goes to court,
mhm.
and I am the mouthpiece for people who don't have a voice for whatever reason, and, um, it's really beautiful to think of it as you're holding that space for them, and it gives them a little bit of a break and helps them
Yes.
know that they're not all by themselves.
Yes.
Um, and it is emotional. Like, you still do have to take care of yourself after. I remember leaving one hearing that actually went really well, but
Mhm.
it just drove home what a horrible, horrible situation this was. And even
Yeah.
though the result of that hearing was we were moving forward to a solution that is healthy, it just brought up how sad it was. And I
Yeah.
was meeting friends for lunch afterward and I was like, I think I just need a hug. I got out of the car at the same time as another
Yes.
woman. And I'm not normally really like that, but I was like, oh, I'm ready to just like unwind. And I gave her a hug and she was like, oh no. And I'm like, no, it's all fine. I'm fine. I'm not even really sad. I feel all the feelings. Like it's so
Yes.
much. And so like those parents at the Capitol, they feel all those feelings all day, every day.
Yes.
Whereas
Yes.
we feel it we feel it all day, every day, but in a very different under very different circumstances in a very different
Yeah.
way. And we do have that separation. I love the
So
way you put it.
Well, thank you. But yeah, we've had some great guests who have talked about either their work or just encouraging other people to do similar. Episode 10, we had Nancy Davis Coe, who
Oh,
actually she is my inspiration. I was sat there eavesdropping on her at one of the Mom 2 conferences, and she was talking about all
yep.
these amazing marches and whatever that she was doing in California. And I was just like,
Such an
man,
advocate.
and I literally had nothing to say to her. Like, I mean, I had plenty to say to her, but not like, oh,
I
and
know
I
what you mean.
also
Yeah.
attended this, or oh, I've been doing this thing that I believe in. Like,
Yeah.
I had nothing, and I'd never really put that much time or effort. And it was really that next year after that when I
Hmm.
felt this need for someone to go and support the community in particular. It was the LGBTQ inclusive sex ed that
Yeah.
was getting smashed around in our community, and I just felt like someone needed to tell this other group to shut up. And I was like, what would
Decided it
Nancy
would be
Davis
you.
Coe do? so so yes, she's been doing that much longer than I have, but just
She has great things to say about advocacy. Doesn't have to be
a full-time
your
job.
full time. Yeah, it doesn't have to be a full time job. It doesn't have to be something you do even every week. You can do it in small windows.
Hmm.
And we can go back and link to that episode, but she had some ideas for some organizations
Yes.
that are really good at
Whoops. Uh-oh.
finding.
It's almost time to get my
It's
daughter.
almost time.
But no, and oh, but yeah,
Finding time to do that kind of stuff in little windows.
yes. And she also is very much this idea of like, you are not there to make a case for yourself, or you're not the one saying what you think should be done. You are there
Right.
to listen to what the group you are representing or that you are
Mm-hmm.
trying to help listen to what they need and then take their orders as
Yep.
far as how you can best support them. So that's another
Right.
good reminder. And then episode 17, Michelle Garrett, and we had episode 30, just Julie Lithcott-Hames, and episode 39, Lisa Stromberg had also brought up some really good points around that topic. So if that's something that you are
Yeah.
interested in, definitely check out those episodes.
I loved
Oh
what
my
Lisa had to say about being co-conspirators.
Oh, I love the term
Uh-huh.
co-conspirators. And it's so funny
Yeah.
because she's like, I don't like the word ally. It's like, oh, that's how I introduce myself every week. but but I think that is a good point that like ally is like saying that you're standing together against this thing, which it is. But
It
she's like, no,
is.
it's not just like we're not even going to accept that that thing is the thing. You need to go in and just be like,
Yeah.
no, that's just wrong. So
Yeah.
love that. But oh my gosh, we've
Mhm.
learned a lot. We've learned a lot. We have a lot of things to continue learning about.
Yes.
And let's see, I know we're going to have an abbreviated look, listen, learn, because just in case anybody heard my alarm, it's about time to go pick up my
Yeah.
daughter from school. Um,
Yeah. We'll
but
go fast.
I'm going to
And I
do,
think, can
yeah.
I do a quick plug? I think we want to
Yes.
know, not a plug, an ask. Like we want to know what going forward in the next 40 and beyond episodes, like what is it you still want to learn? We have a survey on our Facebook group, I think, but
Yes.
you can also call our phone number and leave us a voicemail or send us an email. And just what do you want to learn more about? What episodes have really resonated with you? Where do you need more information? What are you still learning? Like, let us know and we'll try to find guests to plug in there.
Yes. That's
So, all right, what do you look, listening, and learning?
okay. Real quick for next week, our guest is Megan Logan, who is the author of the Self Love Workbook for Women, which is just such a okay, y'all need to go watch this on the YouTube, or I'll send some pictures of it, or that might break some copyright laws. But it
Oh, yeah.
really is like a workbook for people who you read a little bit and then you do a little exercise in it. And so it actually is a really interactive, involved process. And so it's just a gorgeous, pretty book. So I'm so excited to talk to her more about that. And she's like legit 20 years of counseling experience, mental health settings, domestic violence, sexual assault centers, eating disorder, hospice programs. So she's covered so many different areas and topics. So a wealth of knowledge that goes into this book. And it's
Yeah.
got like a bazillion stars on Amazon. So I'm excited to talk more about that. And I want to talk a little bit about Lula Rich. We'll have to save that for next week. And then
Oh,
my
yeah.
learn this
We could
week is
talk
going to
for
be
an
the
hour about Lula
oh
Rich.
my God. It's going to be the Mom 2 virtual conference. We talk
Yep.
about Mom 2 a lot. The in-person conference, darn COVID, knocked out again this year, but they're doing a
Mm-hmm.
virtual conference tomorrow. So it'll be Wednesday and Thursday of this week. We need to
Yeah.
promote that on the page too. Just
Yeah.
because last minute people who want to pop in there, and they've got really exciting speakers and really good topics. So
So yeah,
that's
I'm
what I'll be
excited.
learning. I'll have more to tell you about that next week.
Me too. I'm learning that as well. So maybe we'll do some posts about
Combo
that.
learn.
Yeah. Yeah. So look, I'm reading The Man Who Died Twice, a Thursday Murder Club mystery. So I don't know. Did you read a Thursday Murder Club
No.
Thursday?
Is
I
that
think
like
it's
a
called, I think
collection?
the first one is called The Thursday Murder Club. And this is the second one. And it is my kind of book. It is the cutest group of retired people, but they're not cute like, aren't you cute? Pat on your head. Like they are all fascinating, deep people who've had these rich lives, but now they live in a retirement community. And they just started by like having a murder club where they were working to solve an unsolved murder. Obviously, they're solving an unsolved murder anyway. um, and so this is the second book. The author is Richard Osman, and I'm not finished with it. And I have done this a couple times in Look, Listen, Learn, where I accidentally talk about something I'm not finished with, but I like it so much that I feel like I can talk about it before finishing it. But it's a great escape. It's my kind of book to just drift off into and be in their little world set in England. And it's fun. So I recommend the Thursday Murder Club and this second one, The Man Who Died Twice. And then I want to talk about next time, maybe the shit no one tells you about writing. We've talked about
Oh,
it on here before,
yes. I
but
was going to say we've talked about that.
yeah, but I have like some new things to add, but man, I love it. So we'll talk
Is that
about
a
it next time.
podcast?
It's a podcast,
Okay, that's
which
what I
I just
thought.
love the title so much. But it's great and it's really energizing.
I
Maybe,
feel like
maybe I don't
KJ
need to,
recommended that.
I think it was
Did
KJ.
KJ
I was going to
Delantonio
look it
recommend
up.
it? Okay.
Um, yeah. So now I don't really need to talk about it next time because we already talked about it. But it's if you are writing anything, it's it's energizing to listen to them discuss. And they talk about query letters, and then sometimes she
Oh,
just talks to authors about their process. And it's just every time I listen, I'm like, okay, here we go, motivated again. So
yes.
yeah,
Okay. I need to bottle that energy.
I
And
wish I
take a
could.
hit of it later.
Yeah, because I'll be so fired up, and then I walk in the house and I'm like, there's a pile of dishes, and I need to do laundry, and it just
Okay. We need to get a coach to talk about that because I mean, that is just something that time after time I'm like, oh, I'll come back. I'll be listening to this podcast. I'm like, that is just amazing. And then, yeah, I need to learn how to bottle that and just be able to re regrasp that emotion
think
or
it
that
somehow
thought.
ties to the time blocking too. Like we need to learn to turn off the things that zap that energy.
Yes.
And save like Kara Harvey again was amazing at that. She'd be like, my sink's full of dishes and I don't even care because I know I'm going to do them in my block later.
Oh.
It's genius because my dirty dishes talk to me, They're
They're
like, you need to
talking to
come.
me right now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So and they
Oh.
sap my energy for the exciting stuff. So
You know what's funny that hasn't been talking to me is my son who came home a half hour ago and has not seen me at all. I left no note to tell him where I was, and I think he's just playing
hmm.
video games. I think, it could be the end of like what are those movies that used to be in the 80s, like the end of the
Yes.
world movies?
Yeah.
What was that one called? The
Left
nuclear war one,
behind.
Left Behind or whatever.
Yeah.
He'd just be come home. There's no adult here. He'd be like, okay,
All
I'm
right,
just,
guess it's just me now.
I got my charger. It's okay. This is cool.
It's a milestone that he can come in and handle himself, but also like, weren't you worried about mommy? Did
I
you not
know.
want to care where she was?
He knows because I've got the door of the bedroom, the door to the bathroom, and then the
Yep.
door to my closet. So he knows if
Same.
two out of three of those are closed, don't mess. So,
Hmm. Yeah,
so
they do know that like if my bedroom door is closed, everybody just assumes that I'm recording.
yes.
Because again, it's the same like bedroom, bathroom, closet thing. Although they will sometimes I hear that bathroom door open. It's like they're confirming that I'm really in here.
Yes.
But they don't.
Maybe she's not quite started yet.
Yeah. I'll hear it.
Oh,
Or Pete says he can go to his room because his room is back there. And he's like, I can go in there and tell I can hear Susanne and you talking.
yes. Then they know. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, ooh, my thing's got
All right.
23 seconds before it starts beeping again. But I just want to remind everybody what do we want to remind them to? To go to the momandpodcast.com site
Mm-hmm.
to go find the link to the newsletter And then
Yes.
we will send you our handy little recap page. It's
Yes.
basically our main recurring lessons that we hear from all of the coaches. And so we will send that. Oh, no,
Time to go get
stop.
your daughter.
But we will send that to you in your inbox, and we will start actually, you know what we need to start doing, especially Facebook going down last week reminded me of this. Like Facebook and Instagram, those can't be the end all communication that we have with y'all if we need
Right.
to share information. So that newsletter, and I say this for anything that you follow or anyone that you follow, make sure you get on their newsletter because
Yeah.
more and
So we
more
have your
people,
email.
even just in the form of protest, are going to be kind of stepping away from social media. So really getting on the
Yeah.
email list is the number one way
And
to
we
make sure
don't
you get
email you a
information.
lot. In fact, we
We
haven't emailed you since summer.
we
So,
will not spam you. No, we should.
yeah.
You know what? We'll get on the habit of emailing probably weekly, just a little bloop. The episode has launched. So just as a
Yeah.
reminder that there's a new episode. And then we just had the monthly newsletter or bi-monthly or
Or
quarterly.
quarterly. I mean, we're maybe looking at twice yearly at this point. I'm sorry, that's on me. But
No, that is fine. Hey, girl, you're busy, busy, busy. But anyway, so go sign up for that newsletter because we will be doing more and more of that as far as reminders of stuff that's coming up.
yes.
And just want to make sure we have another way to reach out and hear from you for when the socials are down. So,
Yeah. I mean, the next time that might be it. You never
yes,
know when it's all gone.
we'll see if
So
Congress has their way. But yes, so yes, thank you so much for
awesome.
staying with us for our full term 40 weeks
Yeah.
of podcasting. I can't believe, oh my gosh, we could have had a baby by now, Missy.
We could have. We did. We had a baby
We
podcast.
had a little
And
bit.
now
Oh,
now we're gonna watch it go through toddlerhood and on into adolescence. It's around for a long time. We have no plans to go
yes.
anywhere.
I'm glad that it sleeps for more than 3 hours at a time, though. So,
Gosh, me too. Me too. This is the best kind of baby to have.
well, and there's no one I would rather parent this podcast with. So, thank
Same.
you. This has been
Thank you.
I cannot wait for the next 40 episodes.
All right. Have a good afternoon
All
or
right,
evening.
you
I don't know what
too.
time it is.
I don't know.
All right.
Hopefully not evening or I'm really late for pickup.
Yeah. Well, I'll see you at Mom 2.0 everywhere tomorrow.
Yes. So excited. All right. Goodbye, everybody. Bye bye.
Thank you so much for joining us for the Mom and podcast. We hope you enjoyed today's show. And if you know someone else who could benefit from the episode, please be sure and share it with them. And while we're begging, please subscribe and rate us wherever it is you listen to podcasts. You can find links to all the things we discussed today in our show notes or over at our website, momandpodcast.com, with the A-N-D spelled out. In between shows, find us over at the socials, including our private Mom and Community Facebook group. The links to that group and all of our socials can be found at momandpodcast.com. Thank you so much for your support. We appreciate you more than you know. Now go out there and make your ellipses count.